how might PLCs at times contribute to deficit thinking? And can you give any examples of what that looks like or sounds like?
Well, I'll share with you a really interesting study that was done a couple of years ago, and I will kind of fast forward through the methodology. But this study in particular took place over the course of a year. It involved a number of different professional learning community teams in a number of different schools. And what the researchers were interested in was finding out what it was that teachers talked about whenever data were shared
Mm,
in a professional learning community team. And much of that data, not surprisingly, was also teacher generated data. So, for example, how did the kids do on the last science assessment that we did, not
mhm.
just the state data? And the researchers analyzed these transcripts that were gathered over the course of a year to see what it was that people talked about whenever data were shared. And it really came down to these four particular areas. They found that 85% of the time in their study
Mhm.
that one of four approaches was used when the data were shared. One was a discussion about the mismatch between the assessment and the student. In other
Okay.
words, things like, well, multilingual learners, they never do good on this assessment, right?
Mm,
In
mhm.
other cases, it had to do with the student's behavior. Things like, well, he never pays attention. That's why he had this low test score. A third reason was discussion of the student's home life. Well, we shouldn't be surprised that those students didn't do well on this reading assessment because nobody reads to them at home. And the fourth reason was speculating on a possible disability. Things like, well, I think he did really badly because I think he has dyslexia.
Hmm.
85% of the time, that's what the teachers, the teams in these studies talked about. Only 15% of the time did they ever talk about things like what could be done instructionally? What
Hmm.
did you have success with? What I might do differently? And when you think about what the purpose of a professional learning community team is, it's to problem solve. It's not
Mhm.
to admire the problem. And I think it's really important to say, too, that the teachers that were involved in this study are not uncaring teachers in any way. They are not uncaring teachers, but they might be teachers who lack a sense of collective efficacy.
Hmm.
And because of that, in the face of not knowing what to do, they turn to the only thing that they know, which is, well, it must be the kids because I'm
Yeah.
working really hard. It must be.
Mhm. Sounds a little bit like blame. I don't want to put those words in your mouth, but to me, it sounds like a lack of ownership too, right? Like, I have worked hard. I've done everything I can as a teacher. So now if there's a poor score, right, it's got to be the kid's fault.
Exactly. And I in no way question that we're so lucky that education is filled with all of these caring educators. People
Mhm.
care about what it is that they do. People don't wake up in the morning and go, I think I'm going to ruin that kid's day today, right? I mean, it
Like
just
this.
doesn't happen, right? Right, exactly, exactly. But when teams don't understand their collective wherewithal to be able to impact in a positive way, and they're left with going, I don't know what else to do, you
Mhm.
can either say, well, it's on me or it's on them. And it
Mhm.
honestly is kind of easier to say it's on them.
It is easier, and it takes I think it takes a degree of humility. There's something going on with ego. You got to be. I don't know if the word confident is the right word, but some students aren't achieving where you want them to be right now. What does that say about me as a teacher, right? And my
Mhm.
ability? And so that, there's a lot going on there with identity. But
Yeah,
in the same breath, my job's going to be easier. I'm going to be more effective if I can be humble and say, well, Nancy, I see some of your kids like have really scored super well on this. Like, tell me what you did. Can I learn? Like, maybe
exactly.
there's different than how I approached it. So, but that's hard,
Exactly.
huh?
And so I think that what is fundamentally at the center of all of it is we're asking the wrong question.
Hmm. What's
Was
the right
true.
question?
I'd like to talk about the wrong question first. The
Sure, sure.
wrong question is um, how are we going to raise kids' reading scores? How are we going to raise kids' math scores? That's the wrong question. What we do need to do is to be able to figure out what's something that we have together that we would call a challenge. And then let's investigate what it is that that looks like. Let's make some plans for what it is that what actions we're going to take to be able to affect that.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's stand back and say, where is it that we're seeing impact? When you ask a kind of question, and I'll give an example. Where Doug and I work, we have lots of multilingual learners, right? And one group's common challenge during this quarter is, and I'm going to read it because it's right there on my screen. Our multilingual learners struggle to answer questions about the details from an audio presentation of an academic topic. In that statement, in that common challenge, they're not yet solving the problem. The first step is you got to figure out what's the problem you're trying to solve. Because when you know what the problem is that you're trying to solve, now you can start to take action toward that as well. The problem we're trying to solve is not, we have to get more kids requalified who are students who are multilingual learners. We have to get them. That's not the right question. Let's drill down on that and let's have it be at a scope that we can actually affect a